Hello, everyone. We're going to start, and some people will probably come in if our registration count is true, so hopefully they'll join us in progress. But we'd like to go ahead and get started and welcome you all to this joint event for discussion of the IOM evaluation of PEPFAR and the GAO PEPFAR studies. My name is Kimberly Scott, and this is my colleague, Bridget Kelly. We have been nearly inseparable for the last 4 years as co-directors of the IOM evaluation of PEPFAR. And it has been our pleasure now that it has come to its conclusion and we're doing some dissemination. This is one of many events that we think is very special. But first, before I get into the other welcoming comments, I would just like to say that our board director, Dr. Patrick Kelly, who is the senior board director for the Board on Global Health, is on international travel and sends his regards to everyone today. So those not only attending in person, but also we'd like to welcome those who are participating by webcast. And we look forward to hearing your questions during the Q&A as well. We'd like to certainly thank GAO, the analysts and staff from the U.S. Government Accountability Office that has, as many of you probably know, has a pretty hefty portfolio of PEPFAR studies that they've conducted over time. And I'm going to ask when it's time for Jim to give his remarks, have him introduce his staff. But we would first certainly like to thank you all, especially Todd Anderson, for, I think, the excellent working relationship and the very professional collegial relationship we've been able to have over many years. As many of you know, we both entities value independence as much as possible. And so while we weren't able to be able to discuss our findings and conclusions prior to the publication of any of our studies, either GAO or IOM, we did find ways to actually be able to talk about sort of the scoping and framing of our studies, and as much as our institutional policies would permit, able to have some really salient conversations to talk about how this work could be synergistic. So that is something that we have certainly valued, and we tend not to have four-year studies here at IOM, so it was actually an opportunity to be able to work with you and other analysts as they came along on the different portfolio studies to be able to work together. So we really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And at this time, is there anything you would like to say, Bridget, before I turn it over to Jim?
I'll just say a few words. I will echo Kimberly's welcome to everyone, but not repeat it, especially to you guys from the GAO. Thanks for coming. But I'll just say a few words about the flow of the event so everybody will kind of know what's going to be happening this afternoon. We're going to start with some presentations from the GAO from each of the studies that are in their portfolio after a little bit of an overview. So we'll start out with that, and we'll have just a few minutes for questions after each presentation. If there are questions that are pretty closely related to the topic, we'll take those at that time. But as we start to get into broader questions, I'll reserve the right as moderator to table those until the end, because we'll have a good chunk of time at the end to kind of talk big picture. So that's how we'll handle the questions. After the presentations, Kimberly and I will have a few comments to share just about the relationships and the synergies between the reports and how they complement each other. So we'll have some of those thoughts to share with you, and then we'll open it up for a discussion period after that. I will ask in advance, if you have a question, to please go to one of the two standing microphones. It's important, especially for those of you on the webcast, to be able to hear what's going on, that we have people at the microphones. And if you would, just introduce yourself and your organizational affiliation when you come to your question when we get to that. And those of you who are on the webcast can also submit your questions, and our staff team will help convey those, so we'll include those in the mix. I think that's pretty much the logistics. We'll have one little break time in between because it's a long chunk of time to be paying attention. So you can look forward to that and have a little side chatting as we go. Did I miss anything?
No.